And so I'm curious to know if you two think race is an issue in the U.S.
Absolutely.
You too.
Very much so. And
okay, so I see it different as, so I grew up in Missouri where it's predominantly white, and I went to white school. So I think we are, for me, I'm looked at as Black regardless from where I'm from. So I feel like it's just kind of hard for me to do a lot of things. Like even growing up in school, it was like I can't do certain things because I was this type of color. And then I could tell I get picked on a lot because I am of color. And I've seen situations where my friends got treated differently than I because I had white friends. So she got treated with special privileges and then I couldn't do that, but she could, which I didn't think that was fair. Stacey was like, I told her that I wrote the paper. I said, why did you tell her I wrote the paper? So my teacher gave me a referral. And then she even called my mom. And then I later talked to Stacey that day at her house, and she said that the teacher was badgering her, saying that I know Ebony didn't write this paper, you wrote it, blah, blah. And she was like, she just gave in.
You enter into this space where either for some people you're too Black, and for some people you're not Black enough. So finding that common area.
But the first time I realized it on the white side was there was this little white boy that I liked in school, and we were on the verge of like boyfriend girlfriend. So he kept telling me, I want you to be my girlfriend, I want you to be my girlfriend. So I was like, okay, that's okay. So then we started going out. And then the next thing I know, he was like, oh, we're breaking up. And I was like, why? And he was like, because my mom said you're Black and I can't date Black girls.
But
and
when we lived in West Seattle, I was only 5 or 6, and our neighbor would blare this like just devil music, but he would yell like, I'm gonna kill you fucking nigger. So I knew when I was very young that like I was Black and like I wouldn't walk on that side of the street because I was concerned. When people do point out my level of Blackness, I personally try to correct them and say, no, listen, like there's people that are darker than me, that have different hair than me, that are much more beautiful. And it shouldn't have to be a matter of light skin and dark skin and those experiences, because even though they'll say like, oh, this is my white girl cousin, that in itself creates a trauma for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your family discriminating against you. That's your family.
My mom was just like, so, I just want to know what we're here for. So she was just going on saying like, oh, Ebony's not doing this in class. Like she really wasn't saying what the real problem was, because there wasn't a real problem. And so my mom was like, so why are we here today? Like, what is the issue that Ebony is doing that we have this meeting? And she couldn't tell my mom. Couldn't tell my mom anything. So she was like, so we're basically here for you to tell me that Ebony's not doing this in class, and you brought all these teachers just to say what? And nothing. I've had teachers who like just picked on me in school like all the time.
When I did my freshman year of college in Iowa, we were in a really small town, and I don't really think I had that many issues, but I know if we would go outside of the town, there was certain places that we shouldn't stop in because they did have Klan meetings. And the girls that were in BSU that were older, they had stopped one time at a Subway and basically got pushed out of town. They had people throwing food at their cars, cups at their cars, getting them to leave because they had active Klansmen there. And I don't remember what had started it, but when I was at the college in Iowa, some of the students had hung a dummy over one of the banisters with a noose. My boss and I had went to Walmart to get ammo, and I had my head wrapped, and we were at the counter, and there was the Walmart employee didn't see my boss. And so I was over by the counter, and I was getting ready to try and press the button to call. And he's like, excuse me, like, do you need something? And then my boss turned around. He's like, oh, hi, can I help you? But when we left work, and then after we went to the gun range, and my boss is just like, do you see how people look at you? And I was like, yes, but you see how people look at me. So again, this is where I say, if you're not with me, you get to be a white male or a white female, or you get to be that individual. But when you see me walking through a store and you see how people, is it because I'm Black or because you think I'm a terrorist? He was like, well, you're white, you can change it. And I was like, first of all, I'm not white. And he's like, what do you mean you're not white? And I said, I am not white. And he was like, well, what are you? I said, I'm black. He's like, well, you don't talk like you're black. You don't act like you're black. I said, the president of the United States of America is black. The first lady, the most educated first lady, is black. So what does it mean to act black and to talk black? And he's like, well, you're like, your dad's black, like Afro? And I said, yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, he's like, well, you don't talk like yo, yo, yo. And I said, okay, here's the thing. And people, when they say like, oh, you're so articulate, or I wouldn't have thought you were so well traveled, or oh, you're so intelligent. And I don't always, depending on the professional situation, but I want to ask, like, do you think that because I'm black that I'm like, are you surprised that I'm articulate because I'm black? Do you say that to white people? Like,
so I would say out here in Spain, there's been a lot of like, what are you? My husband, he's full black, but he's lighter than me. And my daughter, she's fairly light, and she has blue eyes and blonde hair. Her hair is curly as well, like mine. So like when we're out and about, we get like so many stares. It's like, it's so overwhelming because in the States it's like disrespectful or rude to be staring at people like that. They don't even say hello. Spaniards just stare. They'll just walk past, break their necks just to stare, trying to figure out if I'm Spanish or we're all Spanish. But I mean, you could tell by the way we dress and by the way we look that we're not Spanish. So like that's a challenging thing with living out here. So after I told this man he'd go around, he cussed me out. He called me every name in the book. He called me white at that. So I don't know, from different looking in on, the melanated community, that's what I call them, black folks. Looking in from his perspective, he calls me white, maybe because of my skin color, maybe because of my hair. But I kind of took offense to that. Like basically what she was saying, let's be respectful. She wants me to, go above and beyond my voice that I have now and try to be like, oh, well, we can give you, I can't even talk like that.
My code switching isn't to be like accepted or not judged. I'll do it so that way people understand my credentials. Like I almost do it to let them know what level of respect they need to show me, so there's no confusion. So initially I just like to see how people are going to treat me, but then when it comes down to it, like I don't like having to give a breakdown of my curriculum vitae so people respect me. But what you're going to do is respect me. So if I have to explain myself to you, you're going to feel stupid afterwards with my level of intelligence. But I mean, with my niece, I remember when she was really little, she was probably in kindergarten or first grade. And one of the kids at her school told her that she was ugly like a moth because of her color. And I know that was difficult for my sister. And my friend Maya, her kids, like we have those discussions about what it is to be a Black child and how people treat you. And I think that is a hard conversation to have with kids because they don't always understand it. But I think that subconsciously they're aware in school when they're treated different by teachers. But you do have to have those conversations where it's like, if you act a certain way, they're going to stop you more. Or if you're running through a store, you're going to be seen as a problem. Or if you're riding your bike somewhere that you're not supposed to, it's going to be an issue. So you do need to be mindful of these things. And it's not because you're bad, but people just think a certain way about you. And so they expect you to be a certain way. And even if you're not, they're going to look for that. So even if you're not bad at school, as soon as one thing happens, they're going to focus on that. Like, listen, you're not bad, but you're different. And as a society, people are going to expect you to be A, B, and C, even though you're not. And even though you're not, they're going to look for it. And if they can't find it, they're going to provoke it. And if you just have a Black family and that Black family is telling you that you're too light or you're too dark or they don't like your hair, that's one portion of it. But when you have to code switch within your family. And even with that, my cousin Sam, Aunt Sam, her daughter married a Black guy, but she was telling my mom, oh, well, they're not like most Black people and they make us look like white trash. And I said, well, that's because they are white trash. It has nothing to do with them being educated and intelligent. You guys are just white trash. So it's like you go to certain family members and you have to watch that. So even being out here with everything that's going on with Floyd, like I haven't deleted those family members on Facebook. I've been very vocal about this is what's wrong with you. I won't tag them, but I think even that it creates a difficult situation, because at least if you just have an all white family or an all black family, it's kind of a little bit more definitive. Ideally, you'd like to think that your entire black family is going to side on that issue, where when you have this divide and you have to start picking, I mean, essentially you pick and choose. But when you're telling me that Black Lives Matter now stands for burn, loot, and murder, that's a problem for me. And that's something that I have to go into. So again, when you have a family member telling someone, oh, well, they're black, not like other black people. Well, that's going to be this black kid's grandmother. And she's going to still have this complex to where educated black people aren't like other black people, and you're white trash, but you're probably still going to tell your grandchildren that you guys are better because simply you're white. So battle. If you're around white family, they're going to say that you're black. You know what I mean? If you're around black family, they're going to say that you're black, even though you're mixed. Like you're still going to have that.
Yeah.
And I think that just being out, like if I were to identify as white, it's too late now, but it's because I'm going to be on an application for something. And if they're asking so I can get a better, because I mean, you can have a 700 credit score. And if you mark black, they're still like, I don't know about that. Yeah. So if I mark white and I can pass, but then that's going to be against me.
Okay. So last question for you guys. What do you guys have to say to those people who think that race is non-existent and everything is not about race? And are you sure that was a race thing? Like, I don't know. Maybe they were trying to do this. Like, everything isn't about race. Like, what do you guys have to say to those people?
I feel as though if some of these white people went into predominantly Black or Hispanic or Indian populated areas and experienced it for themselves on the other end of the spectrum, they would be more conscious. What they take away from that is completely up to them. But I think for people who say that it doesn't exist, I don't think that they've been in the right places, because in some areas, it's not an issue. It's not prominent. It's not something that you see. You're in your own little bubble. And I think that it is very real, but it's a choice. I think seeing it, acknowledging it, and trying to change it is a choice. And for people who don't want to do those things, they're always going to say that it doesn't exist because they don't want to be part of the solution and they don't want to acknowledge that there's even a problem.
I think that people that are like that are just pure ignorant, because clearly there's racism in the world, because I mean, it's right in front of you, you know. Some people on my timeline, on my Facebook timeline, like I'll post stuff just to see their reaction. You know, I think that they don't think that there's racism going on either because they haven't seen it or they haven't been around somebody who's done it, or, you know, whatever it may be. But I just feel like it's pure ignorance.
To me, I just think they're crazy.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that it's because someone hasn't seen racism happen that they don't believe it exists. I feel like you're just denying it. You're lying about it, because you can ask any person from any racial background, do darker skinned people get treated differently? Or do you want to be treated like Black people are treated? And they will fucking say no. Well, and so thank you guys for getting on here with me. Like, we're done.
Okay.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.